Shasawadan Jichin Japadan
Jisu Yira Kushe Sovaye Gewa Junse Dagi Jisaba Tamje Dagi
Chanje
Jimbo
Jimbo
Sashi Puchu Chushi Metoda Rira Linshi Nite Jimbadi
Sanje Jindu Ite Puaye Trukunanda Shinla Trupashu Idang Guru Anamandala Kaneyataya Me Senche Namji Sambada Loye Chitra Chitawa
Chijun Tomo Debaye Chujin Golo Gondo So Kusan dozen kara shirize bema kara jimbani shunga soso nimya te dunja soso kate lama namla sovande zamlin zepe jindun chonje danto jelun donye be tunga ya natu dambar bebe tu shuchi kundi shukru sope nonchen pa jime waze shabla sovande shija kunsen dola jeze de jime waze yanto donde jime lingbe shabla sovande Lume kunjo sumji ngowani kusum java jansu chusum chukam sum chuji java so shenpa tu jumling pe shabla so wande munzerin zindu dindu jesa ma wande jimba pan jikdra yishe do jela so wande omen chuji inje porane tu sum sanje kunje ngowani rang sum chuku ngosum tanze pa tsabe lame shabla so wande Demain gumbo palden la mala nyamye chuku dabe mukuje dunju gumbe chinlam hinlam bori baza je wanje yon to sho namo aya dambala ye gedan luzan de jingi tu umdada mi ikinan nan rawa kunje dake chizam tamje gedo so so to jurje kanda chuchu dongen jikde na deje lumra chupa kan suda tende dönbe chuchu simbro badam deje Okay, then establishing a pure motivation engaging into practice of Tromge Nagmo in order to cut through ego clinging, in order to bring benefit towards all mothers and beings. While we are doing this morning reciting the Wangdu the Tromge's laughter place, and then from there English when the reading times, and I was reflecting of my own kind of vertical, basically how my mind is, and it really brought a very strong sense of appreciation to my teacher. I always try to have the Guru Yoga part, somewhat and Guru Yoga part as good as I can. Either I have it above my crown chakra, or either have it in my heart, either I have it in my throat. Basically, I try to somehow, some way, I always try to engage with this. Tromge's laughter and these kind of times
Guru manifesting in the 5 wisdom dakinis in order to tame the negativity, negative forces in the environment and the places in order to have greater conditions. The entire mandala manifesting is also due to none other than the blessings of the Guru. And then in the engaging into the main part of the practice, and us having the ability to touch the practice of Atimaha, such as the Nagmo, it is also due to the Guru, Nimanakaya Guru with the Nagmo inseparable, Sambhogakaya Guru with the Vajravarahi inseparable, and Dharmakaya Guru with the Kunduzamo as a being the witness or the refuge or the witness of that Guru of the Turikaya within the 3 dakinis. Or if you only visualize, let's say, can visualize Nagmo, so then Nagmo is none other than the Kunduzamo and the Vajravarahi, that kind of way. And having the witness of our Guru manifesting in the 3 kayas, then that help us to really tackle with how our mind is. As we were talking before, the 5 poisons or the doubt and the such as the wrong view and these things, it helps to really reduce. And then I was thinking, putting effort into Guru Yoga practice and having some blessings of that, yet me as a Jigme Tromge, as a stubborn samsaric person, have so much of this negativity, habitual forces. Then I thought, wow, if I don't have this little Guru Yoga that which I have, how I will be? Thinking of that way helped me to have a greater appreciation of the my gurus. So have to see this way. Have to see. Once when you can bring the Guru into the whatever we practice, we do, we bring into that, and then that what we visualize becomes more serious or more real. As I always say to you, if you have a simple picture of your Guru, example which I give is in a college, if you have your teacher's photo on the chair and not the teacher there, imagine of you and your classmates how your behavior will be. If the picture goes and the teacher sits in their life, your behavior and your classmates' behavior will be different. That's the way we have to see the practice in generally, particularly in the Vajrayana things. That's the way we have to see. It can't be just simply visualized as a photo or these things. Has to be that visualization, what you visualize has to become alive, being there. The easiest way to have that more life is through our own, as we were talking before. It may be equal as a realization or the qualities may be equal, but yet the kindness is much greater because our connection, our knowing, our mind, no matter how much we talk, still are very much with this ordinary mind. There is a sense of kind of a closeness, distance, this kind of effect is there. And more we have a sense of kind of knowing, teacher knowing you, you knowing teacher, that kind of that so to speak, the intimacy of that knowing brings, in the one hand, it brings more of a life. So anyway, those things are crucial thing in the practice, yeah? Crucial thing in the practice. And then practice of the Tromge Nagmo, as we were talking before, it is a Ati Maha practice. And so therefore, Ati Maha practice, Mahayoga in general, so then the way of establishing the mandala is through 3 samadhis and that kind of way of establishing. And the Ati Maha point of view, so then is a Kejik Tenzo, single instant, then the mandala appears in a what I call completeness, arises within the single instant, so to speak, that have to do with the understanding of the having this recognition and being able to rest in the recognition of our own, the intrinsic awareness, the primordial mind. Once we are in that state, then the dynamic energy, dynamic display of these things, basically this expression that arises, all are none other than mandala part happens. The way we perceive by enlightened beings, Buddhas of the world, where the sentient beings perceive this world is different due to one is in that primordial nature. From there, the perception of the world is basically pure and pure land and Buddhas and that kind of way, seeing things in a different ways. sentient beings not recognizing of the primordial mind, and then from there, and then gets caught into this dualistic hope and fear, and then what we see is as our experiences are. And so therefore, as a developing the Nagmo mandala, so to speak, it has to be from that kind of a state. And so therefore, if we don't have this kind of instructions before, so then the best way to go is more of a Mahayoga approach is better. But if we have some instructions of these things before, then the experience of the glimpse here and there kind of way, so then again you rely on the Guru Yoga practice. You rely on the Guru Yoga practice, as we were talking before, that Guru Yoga you blend your mind, basically you pray one pointedly to Guru, and then you dissolve the Guru into your own mind, and then you rest in that inseparability of the Guru. Then that blessings of that naturally kind of helps to dissolve all kinds of mental activities. Example is child being lost in the fair, and then with all kinds of fear and these things happens, and minute the child sees the mother, many of the fears and these things will be dissolved. And after all, then when the child comes into the lap of the mother, all of those things are dissipated completely. Then resting happens, ease happens. Similarly, if we have some sense of through the blessings of the instructions and have the recognitions, and from the recognitions, and then we have become more and more familiar. Recognition is not a big deal at all. It is a wonderful, because that intact recognition, that state, there's no difference in that state of our own primordial nature and the mind of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, all those things. So therefore, it is one hand it's a big deal, in the other hand it's a glimpse. As Longchenpa says, as Guru Rinpoche says, recognition is not a big deal. The recognition becoming a familiar, that's the good one. And so therefore, if you have some familiarity of that recognition, so that means having some stability, then wonderful. When you say put that time, so then that the entire mandala happens, If that doesn't happen, then just like a child falls down and then child says, Mama, they run. Similarly, it doesn't happen, then think about the lineage. And then trying to blend your mind with the mind of the lineage. And then rest in that state. Then naturally kind of happens. You don't have to fabricate it, but it happens because that helps to evaporate or dissolve all the hopes and fears of these kind of thoughts. It's a very, 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 very important. And of course, the practice of truth, practice of truth is generally basically cutting the clinging, ego clinging, cutting the hopes and fears, cutting the attitude towards good and bad, right and wrong. That hope and fear, it is a big cutting the hope and fear. That's a big word. In the relative, so to speak, in the one hand, we say we always bring a contradiction, right? Contradictions. Eliminating of the contradiction happens by having some insight of the karma teachings. Because what we have hope as something good, the action goes with that hope. Fear as something unfavorable, negative, that having an insight of that karma, that the power of, through that power of the awareness helps to bring less and less contradiction, so that what you have as a fear, cause of that also becomes less and less and less, in the one hand, in the relative, so to speak. Then absolutely, of course, as absolutely speaking, as a Buddha, enlightenment, sentient beings, pure lands, hell realms, these things are all none other than mental, ordinary mental fabrication or mental creative. What I'm saying is that, as we talked before, in the eyes of the Rigpa, as let's say Buddhas, in that, from the eyes of the Rigpa itself, will not have a good and bad seeing. But it doesn't mean that, see, the mind of the Buddha is all-knowing. It is free of all obscuration, so therefore, Ranguni, I don't know, Ranguni, from their own, let's say, way or rangunitawa, seeing, or how things are in the way how beings are. That's different case, isn't it? Different case. Does it make sense? I can see, let's say, I can see this flower the way I see, then also I may know how people sees this also. They're different than me. Right? So therefore, as the eyes of the Buddhas, or the eyes of the state of the primordial mind, so to speak, might be a completely different than the how beings has their own kind of a world. So therefore, it's not that that Buddhas have a limited, rigid kind of says, okay, everything is pure, so therefore not manifesting. See, having a sense of sambhogakaya aspect, having a sense of, and the sense of basically, and or as oneself actualizing the absolute nature, which is Dhammakaya, then according to how they're out there in their own world, so to speak, then they emanate Rupakaya, level of Sambhogakaya, Buddha field, to that audience, so to speak, Nimanakaya, to beings of that audience, in order, according to benefit others, have different manifestations, isn't it? So, through our own this clinging, the force of the clinging contaminates what we see as a, let's say, idea of enlightenment, idea of Buddha. The clinging kind of makes it in a sense of kind of a certain form and certain kind of a fixated idea. Concept. And to that, so then we think of, then we through our own this clinging attachment, so then we create something real, like, you know, I want to go to that Pure Land, or some basically we tend to create something very external phenomena. For example, in the one hand, when we meditating, as we were talking yesterday, when we are meditating, there is no, in the meditation of form, in the meditation of sound, or the enlightened speech, so to speak, or the mind, kuchaji nanjuru, sung debi nanjuru, tu wazaji nanjuru, whichever you engage in, or the practice of the form, sound, and thought of the mind, there is no word says, okay, now here you have a clinging to the form. Or here you should really have an enjoyment and pleasure of the visualization. Or nothing of that. More and more we engage in and go in, kind of more and more we engage in the genuine way, the greater and greater happens as a shedding away all the hopes and fears, clinging, solidity, and these things. More and more you allow our habitual force into practice. The more you practice, the more it becomes like our self is. And then what you're trying to do itself may be a cause of greater sufferings, because you may be able, in the teaching says basically, isn't it? Says that through your effort and through your some stabilities may cause you to take reborn into God realms, such as a form or formless, but not so much you gain there. It is still within the samsara. These things are all within the completely relative, and whatever small gain may be, there is a exhausting quality, sakji geva, virtue that has a exhausting. So therefore, then it is very important to know, as we talked before, rangi semni yongsun din sanje tembayin. As we were talking the day before, the truth practice, the source of the truth practice is not, it is from Buddha's teachings. From the extensive, middle, and the concise teachings on the paramita of Buddhas. Then essence of that also basically boils down into really targeting to understand our own mind. Without having some effort into really understanding the mind, then practice in general doesn't happen so well. And particularly as a practice such as these things also will not happen, because we are not really tackling the root of the problem, so to speak. Us not being able to experience the face or the not being able to see the true face of the Nagmo, we say that way, it is all due to mind, ordinary mind, having a very strong force of this ordinary mind, that is the one that obscuring. And so therefore, then it is very important to to look. In the teaching, in the Vajrayana says Tamang Kawame Patang, as talking about the qualities of the Vajrayana path, as a characteristic of the path. There's quite a few of them. One of them says skillful, vast methods. Because every experience of our life is a practice. At the same time, if you don't really to investigate how the mind is, and then we get so much caught with all the other skillful methods, can become a problem. We see, yeah? For example, you are visualizing, let's say, Guru Rinpoche or Vajakilaya, you are visualizing very, very well. If somebody is wiggling or if somebody is walking around things, you may get so irritation might happen. More than irritation, you might get very angry. But reality, that's supposed to have some sense of kind of that ripple of that visualization supposed to manifest in out here, right? It doesn't happen. Just here. But then this is good and that is bad. See? Reciting Om Banzar Kilikila Samangana Pampe, Om Banzan Guru Masido, you're doing these things are very nice, happening things. The next person may be snoring in front of you, next might annoy you. But in the reality, while we are reciting this, we're supposed to have a deeper understanding of the nature of that mantra. Then that understanding or that realization is supposed to ripple, how you say, that ripple effect is supposed to come to whatever sound we perceive. Nature of the sound of that is no different than the nature of the sound of the mantra. But then it's all goes here, only with your mantra. So now, there's nothing else there. There is no understanding the view of that Sung Devinanjur as the enlightened practice of the speech. There is no deeper depth. There's no depth in that practice at all. It's just shallow, only the mantra sound. See, these kind of things that we get caught, Therefore, so then it's important to look how does the how our body and speech and mind This is a very, very important. It is applied, this particular one, in every level of the teachings. Very, very important. It really helps you to understand and have some sense of the understanding has embedded into you, so that you always have this sense of knowing, not this. Such as we were talking before, semji chingwar chejing drowarche livim de la nyeba kayame. The quotation which I brought, mind is the one that binds you in the samsara. Mind is the one that frees you from the samsara. There's nothing to blame to this body. This body without that is none other than corpse. That quotation is very, very important. Very important. That understanding, basically, it translates into every stages of the practice, going to the mind. We engage in the visualization. Visualization, in order to have that become a visualization of the, let's say, basically the form meditation, in order to that to become a genuine meditation, you have to have the mind. Understanding of the nature of the form, just simply being able to visualize itself is not the whole practice, isn't it? Chuni jittawa yije jittawa, the arriving to the view. See, arriving to the view is not just happens by being able to visualize as a Guru Rinpoche. Arriving to the view of the, let's say, the Vajra body, it comes through, I say, arriving to the view through examination, and then that understanding that we become more and more familiar, and then naturally, then eventually it becomes not intellectual view, but it is a kind of experience aspect. So therefore, we have to understand that function of our life, as we karma times. Karma. We talk about body, speech, and mind. Here we're talking about body, speech, and mind. At the karma time, we're talking about body action, speech action, mind action, isn't it? So that's good to bring here. Because body have actions, action comes through body, actions comes through speech, action comes through mind. But then you think, how does these three, body, speech, mind, really, are they existing in a sense of independent entity, or have a sense of kind of a complete, independent, right? Independent. Body doesn't have a full independently creating the action. or the karma, basically karma. Speech doesn't have the independent power to create a karma. Even though we say body action and speech action, but it comes. Mind constructs. Therefore, in the teaching says, Kunji Jabo, mind is the king. Body and the speech is like a servant. So then that itself, when we pay attention, so then we see, isn't it? The everything or creator of everything is the mind. See, having a somewhat embedded understanding of this, it has many, in the meditation, it helps to eliminate many of the flaws naturally. How? Or let's say, I don't know exactly put English, but what I'm saying is that many times we just sit down and we just read some prayers. Oh, I'm done with my practice. Isn't it? See, that will be eliminated by this embedded understanding. Says, oh, only doing this is not okay. Only being sitting 5 hours is not okay. Mind has to be perfected. See, chu, dharma, chu, the word has a sense of kind of a perfecting or correction, bringing into the mind. Chu or chuba. Right now it's kind of our samsaric mind as a habitual force, because it's kind of, bended, crooked, knotted, all over. So then the Dharma helps to bring unwinding, untangling, making it into the path of liberation, bringing into that straight. And so therefore, it is having this understanding is so important. Sometimes people say, oh yes, I have done this before, tearing down the hut. Oh yes, I did examine this. But then you can tell right away how far they went or how deep they went. You can tell by their behavior into the practice. When there is a sense of meditating as being the ultimate of the lesser form, it shows you how investigated they have. Or reciting mantra and making all of this one as being the ultimate thing, you can kind of know how depth they went as tearing down the hut. Everything have to go to the mind. And here from the beginning we started the practice. We talk about this what I call summoning, subduing of the maras and gods and demons, all of those things, all here. We talk about God. That God is trying to. We are not subduing Nagmo. We are subduing the worldly gods and this kind of stuff. Worldly gods' nature is what? If you read in the such as like a 6 realms, you look at the characters of the what I call their mental functions. Demigod is what? Jealousy. Worldly God is what? numbing, distraction. Distractions on this kind of pleasure and this kind of stuff. Yeah, that is with us. We have. And then demons and these things, what they do? Anger and all of those kind of things. That we have. So yes. It's all, when we talk about the maras, demons, enemies and these things, external, these things are, it is a, what I call, problem. It is, that means there is a being, there are confused and roaming in the samsara. So therefore it is an object of compassion, as object of our practice. We impress them in our practice and so forth. But as an effect to oneself, this looks like I'm saying something very, very kind of with confidently, but it's not that way. But reality, if we look at it as a dharma, the teaching point of view says the external maras or the harm doers may harm you this life. Maras that is within ourselves, then that can harm many, many, many lives. So therefore, the reflecting, trying to really understand how our existence and see what is the contradiction that happens, as we were talking before, the hope and fear. There's so much contradiction happens. All of those things are from where? Not independently by body, independently by speech. It is all basically mind. So basically we have to come to understanding the essential or the main thing that we have to really understand is mind. Everything is none other than mind's creation. Creations. Example, let's say we talk about the mind of the Buddha's way of perceiving of things of their own, and us as perceiving things. I can say one example is this way. Of course, is as a kind of makes some sense. Let's say when things are going very, very well, you wake up and you are very happy, right? You are very happy and everything looks nice. Everything is beautiful. You see people, there's a joy, you say hello and how are you, and you may give them a hug and you do all kind of stuff. And you, next time you wake up and you are not feeling well, let's say you are depressed. Same place, same bed, same blanket, same either your pet or your partner or your basically same people around you. You have a different scene. You see the person, it annoys you. Doesn't come out hello. doesn't come out any sweet things at all. Anything, what if something comes out, maybe a little bit kind of poking one, kind of edgy things. See, that's the way it is. Therefore, it is therefore then, as a skillful mean point of view, then practice as a deity yoga these things from the point of view of the nature of form, nature of sound, nature of thought, these things in order to bring, so then we visualize in order to really understand, or in order to have something, so then we visualize, we bring the visualizations of the deities, and then from that deity we visualizations with the understanding nature of form, sound and thought, so then we trying to have a sense of a ripple kind of come out to the, not only within your own cushion place, but perceiving of form, sound, thought in general, all as none other than a display or the expression of the mandala, that kind of way. So in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say here is that we have to understand, first of all, it is all a mind. Mind is the one. Mind is the dominant one. That itself having understanding, of course, knowing the mind is the creation of all, or creator of all of these things, that's not the absolute state of understanding. There's further to go. We have to understand the nature of the mind also. Basically, we have to understand the empty nature of the mind. But just simply arriving there, it helps to shed away a lot of problems. So, yeah. First, as a practitioner, see, it is Buddha Dharma is all about dealing with mind. When this mind, as we understand, and as this mind that we see the absolute, the nature, then Buddha is here. Enlightenment is here. And so therefore, and then first understanding the mind is being the dominant one. All the positive and negative, all of these creating, either we say body action or speech action, basically it happens all from with none other than the mind. Only the avenue is being the physical or basically speech. That's why we call, otherwise it is basically mind. We have to come to that conclusion, that understanding. And then that when you understand that all kind of a creator, all the things that we talk, it is all by mind, mind being the dominant one. But then it looks like, oh, mind is very powerful. But then we look again. Yes, it is. Mind is the dominant one. It kind of body and speech being the servant kind of way is a dominant one. Yet you look mind. There is no entity. It is none other as a solid structure in any way. It is shapes, colors. It is none other than collective nature of thoughts. It's collective thoughts. As you, our Rinpoche, when he gives teachings on these things, he holds mala. Mala, we call mala because many beads are put together, we call mala. You pick one bead and you will not say mala. It's a bead. See, the thought, we basically there's a sense of kind of a following, clinging, and therefore, so then one after another forms. I used to when I was young, Ganges River, where there's a body burning every second, basically there's a flame is going on for how many centuries. I go there and sit and trying to have some trying to turn into practice of sometimes, and then sometimes I go to train stations and just sit and especially train station is a very, very, see here you have rules. Over there's not so much rules. Train station, people sleeping everywhere and things like this, and then sometimes I go and just be with those beggars, and they have their own world, they have their own structure. It is very, very it's a very, very sad. So anyway, as my own kind of experience of these, when I was very young, early teenagers, the what are called snail going. We have monsoon. We have so many snails everywhere. Snails going. They all, when the wind blows and the grass touches to the antenna, goes like this right away. Yeah. When there is no disturbance, and then antenna just completely, fully extends, and then walks very slow like this. Then I thought, that's like our mind and our nature of mind. I have the kind of sense of kind of somehow kind of as a kid, the example of the snail kind of happened to kind of some making sense of the nature of mind. The train station, going one after another like this. And I thought, oh, this is like our mind. Many of those sides of the compartments, like this. Then the most this what I call example I can see is this what I call movies, yeah, movie things. Many clips put together. The clip that you allow to spin, and then it makes the whole stories. When you put a pause, that one frame will not tell you the story of the movie. Then that's the way the mind, as we call mind, is. Reality is past, is gone, is not exist. Future is not here. Therefore, present, the thought is like a frame of a movie. If you just simply pause our thought and just rest in that thought, there is no force in the thought, then naturally that thought of the frame, so to speak, that thought dissolves. Similarly, as an analyzing point of view, and then we have let's say the frame of the movie, and then you, let's say, investigating point of view, so then you think of as let's say the frame of that in chopping into many pieces, even though may have a picture of a flower and a man holding, let's say, Bollywood movies, and then the colorful clothes with a flower holding it to the lady like this. You chop the frame of these things into pieces, and you can't tell that it's self-function thing also, isn't it? And so basically part in this kind of way, you cut into a time-wise dividing kg, the single instant can be broken into pieces, or substance as a frame that we have in that also can be cut into basically to particles in this kind of way, and you will find nothing. So that's the way the mind is. Then, another way of looking at it is we say, oh, it's the creator of this and that. We think of as something very, very. But then we look, there is no what you call powerfulness in that thing. It changes all the time. Meda tumash, taji rawanche, meda tumash yawanche. Either let's say, the way we have, as the way we perceive things, and we as something being solid, strong, permanent, independent. How you say? Singular. I don't know. There's another word they use there for too. But when we look at it, nothing of that nature exists. If there is a sense of kind of a structure that is the mental, the mind, it has some sense of kind of a, how you say, permanent ideas, then that can be applied to body, speech, mind, all of those things. You're basically trying to break down the clinging to the body, clinging to the speech, clinging to the mind, those things. Basically, let's just do mind, and then you can cut and paste to the other things. It's easy. So you look. As Atisha's teaching in tradition says, Hama Kanyin Tade Lulatu, Chima Kandro Tade Lelatu, that itself kind of gives you some understanding, says, how you were in the past, look at your this is the result. How you will be in the future, look at your action. This action is the cause of the future. If there is no if it is sense of kind of a permanent, then it's going to be the same. So we have taken birth as a God realm beings. We have taken birth as a demigod. We have taken birth as we taken now human, and we have taken many times in the past, and animals, and hungry ghosts, and hell beings. So forth. Right now, we are not a God realm form or God realm. We don't have that kind of a thing. So therefore, it is not permanent. It is impermanent. It change. And also, this is not a singular thing, it is a composite nature, because we have positive thoughts, negative thoughts, neutral thoughts. Positive have many different grades of positive thoughts comes. Negative also that way. Negative, that kind of negative thoughts that can bring you to a heart beating. Negative thought grade of more than that, as a hand going like this and going like this. Many things we have, isn't it? How we were in the past, we don't have the same thing here, either by body, or either by speech, or either by mind. So therefore, it is not a permanent. It is impermanent. It changes all the time. Body change. You may before walking on the four legs, and right now you are not. That itself is that. As the mode of one kind of a feeling, as a kind of a being more likely to be the God realms. But that itself they are more of a, always in kind of like a, how you say, comfort, pleasure kind of a state, bliss state. But that itself is not permanent. It is a temporary. In the eyes of us, looks very long, but in their eyes, it's not so long. When they are married of that exhaust, and then more and more it's become like us. Morning we take a shower and we smell very good, and then more and more evening comes, and more we become stinky. It's like them. It's like that up in a God realm. When their merit is there, working perfectly, and everything smells good, glowing, and everything, and more they comes towards the end of their marriage and things, and then the glowing kind of a beauty dissolves, and then the natural beauty aura under the perfume things dissolves, and other things, unfavorable things begins to come. And so therefore it is not a permanent thing, isn't it? Then dependent, we know, we experience every day. Someone looks at you in a certain ways that makes you angry, makes you sad, makes you think of I'm not worthy, all of those things. Then the person looks at you in certain ways, and then you get happy, says hello, and you get happy. Basically, the whole thing changes. Let's say certain holy places you go. Just simply being in that environment, it changes your mind in a good way. And then, from that, we create virtues. We go to a places that is more destructive. Then our mind gets disturbed, and our mind gets more effect of these things, and then we become more negative. Then from there happens non-virtue things, isn't it? So therefore, it is very important to look. It is not an independent thing, it is a very much dependent. In the pilgrimage that we do, because of that thing, we take advantage of that transformation from the environment in order to gain greater merit, or from that transformation they're trying to bring that stability. Or that may, as we said before, it's like a mother, child going into the lap of the mother kind of helps to ease the child. Similarly, us having some transformation may help us to have a deeper understanding, and then we take advantage of that in a sense of to make more and more familiar of the experience of the practice. And therefore, the holy beings consecrate the place. Then the energy of the consecrated place can influence beings like ourselves. Then that itself tells you that it is not a independent thing, it is a dependent. So therefore, mind, basically these things we have to understand. So, once we have some understanding of this, mind being the dominant one, yet mind is basically it is fragile. There is no permanent structure. It is none other than a thought. And then from that, basically, way as we looked before, and when we look in this kind of way to understand that there is nothing there to really grasp, is only a thought, then that conclusion of that is very, very important, because our life, you say our life, or you say as our life in the sense of our practice times. What happens is the thought arises. Thought arises, and then we get caught into the thoughts. We get caught into the thought, and then that goes and goes and goes. And then, as you see, you are about to fall asleep, and then you have a certain thought comes, and then do you fall nicely? No. You have a hard time falling asleep, first of all, even though if you do fall asleep, that influence of that strong thoughts may make you sleep either light or in a state that you're kind of so intense, the morning you wake up, you're tired, happens. So, see, going to sleep is a very good example for practice. When you go to sleep, if you are physically active, you can't fall asleep. If you are verbally very active, you can't fall asleep. If you are mentally very active, thinking, you can't fall asleep, right? So, physically being very relaxed means free of activities. Breathing, natural state means not physical, the verbal activities. Mind relax means there's no mental activity extra. Then we fall asleep. Similarly, in the practice also, while we are meditating, let's say, practice of this deity yoga, there is a practice of body. It's not like, oh, I'm practicing, so therefore everything is just like this. Shunyata, not like this. Some people say, oh, I really like Vajrayana, I just meditate. I don't do anything else. I don't like to meditate on this deity, that it. I just say, like that. If you have a version of for meditation, there is a problem. It shows you that there is a problem in your If you have a problem of a mantra enlightened speech practice, and you want to just say there is a problem in your So, When you go to sleep, your body is there, your body is relaxed. Your speech, your breathing is there, but breathing is relaxed. Mind is there, mind is relaxed. Free of activity, you fall asleep. Similarly, in the practice of as a deity yoga, there is a form. There is a body there, wisdom body, what you visualize as a wisdom body. In that body, there is no influence of our ordinary mind as a attachments to this. Then that helps by what? That understanding, coming down to the mind, understanding the mind being the dominant one, then mind, understanding the mind is also dominant yet fragile, and fragile yet there is, when we investigate, there's nothing but it is just a thought, and that we go down and we basically we come down to understanding that there is nothing to grasp as a mind, basically boils down into arriving to the emptiness, empty, the thought nature being emptiness. So that kind of a way, so now when it helps is that, so now when you are practicing, thought comes, but now through this examination or the investigation that we have done, then that helps to not get caught into the thought, either is about, let's say, oh, I accomplished the meditation of the form, wonderful, but then doesn't help that through the investigation done, the power of that helps to not allow any further to go than that. May help you to see that yes, I have accomplished, or I have established the visualization, but then it doesn't allow to come in as a pride, or doesn't come in as attachment to what I accomplished as a visualization. See, it's only a visualization, but there is no the attachment or the pride of that being able to visualize doesn't happen. So now, not by the recognition of that doesn't allow to arise pride and attachments, then that now resting in there, then may have the greater or the insight of the form, being able to put together form and emptiness, nature of the form come together. Similarly, sound, reciting mantra and the light mantra, visual mantra going this way, and the light mantra garland going this way, and so forth. And being able to do that is wonderful. But then thought may come and says, oh, I done it. Wonderful. Rejoice. But then, by that recognition, the thought, the arising when we recognize, will not go any further of attachment and pride, and these things will not happen. By not happening of that, will land to the deeper practice as a Vajra speech, before as a Vajra body. So therefore, it's a very, very important, very, very important. Okay. Then today we'll come back earlier, maybe 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock, and then maybe I will talk a little bit more at the talk place. Talk place we'll do some quicker one. Sunam de tam jesi bani
Tune ne pe tanam banjene.
Jega nanji balam trubai sibe solen
ruwa shu. Tromge senjo Rinpoche. Ma je banan che ju chi.
Geba nyamba
me pa.
Gone gondo
bewa shu.